Hello and welcome to Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Anika.
And I'm Andrea, and welcome to episode 13 of season 3, The Hope That Is You, part 2. This is the last episode of the season, of season 3, and everything that we have learned from the season is coming to an end. The Emerald Chain is tightening its grip on Discovery. The crew is trying to fight back, and Michael is trying to save the world like she always is. So let's go ahead and break into, and I forgot, we find the answer to the burn. We'll get into that. So before we get further into, as you can tell by my voice, the awesome episode that episode 13 is, initial reactions. Monica, what did you think?
I know you're being facetious right there, but I do think this is an action-packed, but a 3-episode finale. I feel like just like this episode alone was not the finale. It was like leading into the last 3 episodes, helped to lead to this finale. But the big takeaway for me is, bing, bing, the Wicked Witch is dead. Because Osyraa kept reminding me of the Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz with the green.
Oh my gosh, yes!
And finally, a character dies that needs to die. So I have that going for it. There's a few other roller coaster rides in this episode. I'm looking forward to talking to you more about it.
Okay, that's who she reminded me of. Yes, she reminds me of the Wicked Witch. Oh, yes. I've been trying to figure out all. I was like, why does she look like someone? I just couldn't picture it. And no other Orion looked like reminded me of her except Osyraa. That is a good point out. Yes, great point out. So for me, my initial reaction is, are you serious? That's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to end the season. We're going to say this person's responsible for the burn. That's what we're going to do. If we had never learned what causes the burn, I think I would have been okay with everything else that happened. But because of who they made responsible for the burn, I would have preferred it to be Navarre. It'd be like a chemical reaction gone bad. I would have preferred it to be something else more tangible than the reason that they gave us. And we'll go further into that as the episode goes on. But I would have preferred this to be an action-packed episode of just Starfleet fighting with Osyraa and taking the Emerald Chain down all episode. I would have so much have more preferred that for the season finale than what they gave us by trying to include the burn. The cause for it, because we technically learned the cause of the burn 2 episodes ago. It was implied, but we all knew what it was. And I was really hoping that I was wrong, and I'm not, and I'm pissed. So let's go ahead and do a deeper dive into this episode, and we'll save the burn for the end because I know I can probably just yell for that one. So basically, Starfleet is in the fight with Osyraa, and Vance is like, that's it. We can't risk them taking that ship away. So he's like, we can't have it. No one can. He's ordering Starfleet to attack the USS Discovery, regardless of the fact that the crew is still on there. The crew was on there trying to take back the ship. We have Osyraa. We have Osyraa's people sort of turning on her. Like, I know that you have more inside of you, and she chokes the crap out of him. Like, there's a lot that's going on Discovery, which would have just made for me, that's all I needed for this episode. I needed Osyraa to be the big bad, and then for them to be taking her down, because I loved it. There was another sci-fi movie scene that came to mind when they were fighting in all like the elevators and they were like outside the turbo lift. And side note, did you think the inside of a ship looked like that? Because I didn't think the shafts would have looked like that.
No, I agree. I wasn't expecting like these big gaps.
Yeah.
Between all of the sections. I would think that would, I don't know, been built out with some other,
like a building, right?
Yeah, like some functionality. Once again, Michael and Book make a great team.
They do.
You could tell that they have had previous strategies and battles and fights together, because they were able to make connections and communicate with each other without talking about exactly the next move. Like, okay, we're going to go with plan B, whatever that is. And we're as as the watching audience, we're just along for the ride. We don't get the explanation of what they're doing.
Like, oh, that's plan B. Okay, let's do this.
Right? And then also I like finally Michael is reaching out to Tilly and giving her like a clue, a hint on the next move so that Tilly can help with it. So I'm thinking if Michael didn't really need Tilly, would she have reached out? But I'm glad she did. I'm glad now she's communicating with the rest and that Tilly and the rest of the bridge crew could help to, I guess, put the bomb in to slow down the Discovery ship. So Osyraa.
No. I wanted to add on to what you just said about if she needed Tilly. I think it was one of the things where Michael's finally learning to trust other people, because I thought about it when I was watching it. I was like, well, if you were going to restart, did they need to blow them out of warp? Because if you just restarted the computer, you could have pulled yourself out of warp anyway. But it was like it was like a fail safe. Either Tilly was able to blow them out of warp and then they could destroy the ship so Osyraa couldn't have it, or Michael could retake the ship before they blow it up. So it's like, oh, Michael's like, hey, we have plan A and plan B. We're going to try and make both of these work because we need to stop Osyraa.
Right. But I am glad that one of the robots, once again, the Spear Data, is here to save the day.
Yes.
And help pull Joanne, who actually delivered the bomb, who installed the bomb, Joanne back to the rest of the team in safety. So the robot was able to maneuver a bit to help save the day. But and Tilly also realized she couldn't finish it on her own. They should have also realized earlier that by talking so much and moving so much that we use up more oxygen. But I was along for the ride. It was a nice adventure, and it was nice to see them all bond and see Tilly's leadership outside of the formal captain's chair.
Yes, it definitely was, because we see that Tilly is a force to be reckoned with, and I like that, because like the Tilly we met in season 1 and the Tilly that we have now are two very different Tillys, and I'm so pleased to see that she's much more forceful. She's much more diplomatic is not the word I'm trying to think of, but she's more strategic. Like she can really just like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. XYZ, get it done. Versus, so I think we should, instead of it being like that, where she just always was sort of like unsure of what she was going to say and not actually knowing how to finish a sentence or rambling too much, she was able to be concise. This is what we have to do. This is how we're going to complete it. Let's figure it out. I will say I do agree with her telling the whole story about how sad she was on her birthday. We didn't need to know the story. You wasted oxygen on that one.
Right.
Like you could just say, oh, that's for me. Michael's saying something from last year. Oh, it's fireworks, bomb. We need to blow the thing up. I didn't need you to waste more oxygen telling me about how sad you were on your birthday last year. So you hid in the tube. I didn't need to know that. Right. Did not need to know that at all.
Yeah. But there's 2 more scenes that I like to talk about. And that's the scene with Michael fighting with Osyraa. And then I guess Osyraa pushing Michael into the programmable matter. Because it took me a little while to understand what all of those cubes were, what the purpose of that room and that cubed wall. And so that's the data core, but Osyraa pushed Michael into the programmable matter. I guess she thought that Michael was going to die there.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of some other scene from another movie. It just didn't come to my mind at that moment. And still down.
Star Wars. The
maybe
can't think when he was like encased in that thing,
right? But Michael still had her phaser inside and fired out blind and hit Osyraa, and at least she was killed. And it's I think she's definitely dead.
I would have double tapped the head just to be on the safe side. Zombieland rules: double tap, pop, pop. You're real dead.
So that was a nice action scene and helped to put closure, I think, to the Emerald Chain. Now, if someone else decides to rule it, that's a whole other thing. But at least she's out of that leadership role. And then also Zareth, the guy from the Wild Wild West episode.
Oh, he's dead, and I'm so happy.
Yes.
I like, though I would have rather again to see him physically die, because we just see him fall. And last time we didn't see his death. He was like, that's a death sentence, and he didn't die. So the fact that we didn't actually see him die is like a pattern with him. And I sort of wish we saw his death so we can saw his dead body. Like, what if he hit the thing at the right angle and only broke a leg or something? I don't know. It's his face. So, right. Whatever. Right. Like, I'm hoping he's dead. I so hope he's dead. But because we didn't see his dead body, and the fact that last time we saw him in the episode is like, oh, that's a death sentence, and he didn't actually die, and we think that he fell again to his death, but we didn't actually see him die. Part of me is like, don't you bring him back? Don't you bring him back next season? Like, oh, I didn't die, because I don't want to see it. Star Trek, I don't want to see it.
So I just thought of something funny. So what if like his body splattered onto some engineering part, and then Jet had to clean it up? Like she was picking on the other guy. If you like many episodes ago, I think at the very beginning about cleaning up Leland's body. Like if it was brought back around full circle and Jet had to do that.
That actually would be hilarious.
We know for sure that he's dead.
Yes, I would have loved that. I would love that. You see the old guy who I have to admit from the episode with Giorgio that he's not evil. Apparently, I thought I was putting my money on that he was evil, and I was wrong. I'm accepting that. But he's like, we can't blow up the spore drive. That was our connection to unite the rest of the universe back together. And Vance is like, yeah, no, we can't let Osyraa have it. And I love that he understands that sometimes you're in a no-win situation, and you have to make the hard decisions and actually do the hard thing, and not talk about, okay, well, if we might have to blow them up. Like, no, blow them up, attack, fire, destroy. Like, Vance is like, look, we live in a world where we don't have the luxury of hoping and praying that everything's going to work out on the end. The hard decision needs to be made, and I love that there is an admiral that can make the hard decision.
Right, and that actually reminds me that a few episodes ago, Tilly actually told Osyraa, I would rather blow up Discovery than give it to you.
Yes. So
Tilly and Vance are on the same page.
It's like, if I can't have it, no one can. And this is actually a good reason this time, because we can't allow this technology to fall in the hands of our enemy. And also, I understand why they kicked Paul off the ship. I really do. I understand why Vance took Paul as far as ways he possibly could from the ship. But did no one think to tell Paul that Hugh and Adira decided to stay there? Did no one think to tell Paul the truth of what is going on? Why were you allow him to believe they were left behind on accident, that they need to go back and save them immediately? Why did it? Because did Michael ever tell him that Indira gave them more medicine so they can survive longer? So I'm like, you it's not what you did, it's how you did it. And you basically made Paul believe that his life, because they basically adopted Indira. That's their child. And so his husband and his child is on this planet, and he doesn't know. And he doesn't know that they have more medicine to survive down there. That he doesn't know. And a level of disrespect to your friend that's like, I'm trying to save your life, but like under like 2 seconds, and all the time it took you to force him off the ship, you couldn't have said, oh, and Book told me that Indira went down there with more medicine, so they're going to survive. So we just need to get you away from the ship so that way she can't use it to go further away, and then we can go back and get them. Like, there was no talk of that. Like, no, whatever.
Right. And keep in mind too, Micah was too busy sending messages to her mom to send messages to Vance or anyone else to let them know what was going on. And then also Paul was just like brainwashed. He just had that crown thing over his head. So he was completely out of consciousness to know what was going on. And he came to, and I think he was still trying to catch up to what in the world was going on here, and how do I save my husband, and my adopted daughter and the rest of Discovery. Like, this is just way, like, he just thought, I have a power. Can I use my engineering skills to help save the day?
I don't fault Paul for being angry at Michael, to not wanting to hug her, to not wanting to be her friend anymore, because she basically showed that she doesn't have she can have compassion for herself and when she wants to, but when she thinks she's right, it's like the other people don't warrant an explanation. Sometimes for people to really understand what's going on in their life, you have to explain the situation to them.
Right. And I think that's the responsibility of, dare I say it, a captain, is to communicate well. And Pike was really good at that. Giorgio, what we know of it, was really good at that. So
I can yell forever about Paul because I just wanted to give him a hug this episode, because seeing him literally dragged away screaming to help his family was very hard. I was like, oh, Paul, I just want to give you a hug. So this whole half is about the nebula, and Hugh and Saru and Indira, they're all there. And then we also get to meet another face. And it was a very sort of, even a little emotional. I got my little cold dead heart started beating for a second when Gray arrived. It's like, oh, you found them. And we get to see that Hugh is like, oh my gosh, Gray. And Gray gets this like, oh my gosh, you can see me. And they have like a little hug, and he feels like another person besides Indira. That was a beautiful scene. We get to see Saru try and connect with Su'Kal over their shared culture and trying to let him know that he's actually a Kelpian who just looks like a human. Seeing Saru connect with Su'Kal through his grief, through their almost sort of shared experiences of just trying to get him to trust him was really sweet. Helping Su'Kal overcome his greatest fears, helping Su'Kal understand that he was never meant to be there for as long as he was, that stuff happened. And because of what happened, because of the burn, and because the burn happened, that's why he was stranded here for so long. Not that anyone really forgot about him, but no one had the resources to really figure out what happened and come get him. It was a sort of beautiful storytelling of just trying to reconnect someone back to the world, because after being alone for over 100 years, it's very hard to start believing that's something you gave up on. Like, you were never supposed to be there for more than a couple years by yourself, and really you ended up being there for most of your life alone.
He felt abandoned.
So there was a lot, and then we also go into that Su'Kal, I was right, and I hate that I was right, and I think this is a huge cop-out, and I just really hate that this is the reason of the burn. That Su'Kal caused the burn when his mother passed, and he saw her dead body, and he screamed in pain, but because, like, in pain and hurt and fear, but because he's genetically connected to the dilithium that we find out, and because he was able to survive the radiation on the planet, that his scream on the same wavelength as all the dilithium caused the burn. They freaking put the death of millions of people on a child losing his mom. All of the problems, they're putting it basically on the shoulder of a child. And regardless of intent, because you can tell someone it wasn't your fault all day long. It was his fault. It was not, he didn't do it on purpose. He didn't even know that he did it. He didn't mean to do it, and he doesn't want to do it again, but it was still his fault. It was because that's the way it was written. And I think this was the huge cop out of, they could have made this any other reason. They could have said that it was unstable, and because the ship landed there, it started breaking up. They could have did anything else but make it a child's grief at losing his parent. Because I just really, really, really hate the cause of the burn. The rest of the episode of learning about this, of connecting with Su'Kal, that was great. Seeing Gray in person and having him connect with Hugh, great. Everything else, great. The cause of the burn, I think this was a cop-out. I think they couldn't think of a better reason, so they just did this. I didn't like it. What about you? What did you think?
I was underwhelmed with that conclusion, because we knew that he was going to be connected to the burn. I grieved with him when I saw his mother pass, and knowing also there were other people on that ship, and just like the bodies were just laying there. And he had fear this whole time of going into that room. He couldn't exactly remember why. It's just a bad scene happened there. So there was a ghost inside of him that was projected out. I was wondering if this is somehow connected to like the pandemic and stuff, because they kept mentioning the outside and he was afraid to go outside and other things. And I know that this was written in 2020 and then produced in 2020. So I don't know if it's a stretch. I'm not seeing it. I don't connect as much to this aspect of the story. One of the things that I did connect with, though, is the fact that each one of the Starfleet characters that beamed there into the nebula changed their physical look was different. So it also showed that on the inside, like they're still themselves, but they could also look differently to other people, but they're still deep down inside themselves. So I think for me, that was more of a cultural connection that I liked, because we should look more at everyone's character more so than the way they look, what species they're connected to, if they're human or not. And I think also Su'Kal was learning that too, that Saru didn't look like him, but is connected to him.
Yeah.
And so that's the part I liked. So Gray became Vulcan. And Adira became, and I'm going to completely mispronounce the species, so I'm not even going to try right now, but basically became a Queen Poe's species. And so that I liked. I like prosthetics, and I like seeing other species. So I like to see those actors. And I think it's hard for actors to then go from, I think, one type of mannerisms to another type, right? Yeah. To change. So I like seeing Hugh with the nose, with the changes in his nose and the earring, and like his posture was different. And he was outside of his medical uniform. So I like that aspect. I'm with you. I didn't connect as much with the whole premise behind the fact that Su'Kal, a child, started this craziness and basically the change in a universe. And I also know, though, that his mother tried the best for him. You could not have asked for
a better mom. Yes.
She laid out all the foundation, everything that she could do just in that ship, because the rest of the planet was it's just a dilithium core, like mining field. So there's no other minerals out there. And she made a safe space haven for her child. So yeah, that's what I liked about the segment.
His Su'Kal's mom was the video that she left when for the people who come to rescue her son was beautiful. And it was great to see Su'Kal, to see Saru for the first time. It was like, you weren't lying, you're telling the truth, you're really here, you're like me. To see Su'Kal have that first connection with someone like him was beautiful. I agree. Like you said, I grieved with him when he lost his mother, because that was painful. It was hard to watch. It was like, just to see a kid lose their parent, and literally it's not like he lost his parent and still had like his uncle or someone else there. Like, he was alone. That was the last living actual person there with him. It was heartbreaking to see how Gray was upset when the holo was going to be deactivated, because he was like, I'm finally, like, for him it was different to only be seen by Indira, but now, like, I want to be seen by other people. And Hugh can connect to that. He can connect to that with Gray about not being really there, being dead, but not being dead. And he's like, we'll find a way to bring you back. And I thought that was really beautiful. That was a little heartbreaking too, because I just wanted to hug Gray. I was like, no, Gray, don't go nowhere. It's okay. Come in. We love you. and here's in my mind how I thought the burn should have happened if you're going to connect it to a person. I felt like there should have been someone on the planet who was like a native of the planet who was protecting all the dilithium, and because like someone was trying to come and like he thought they were trying to steal, and so he blew it up so that way they couldn't take it, but didn't realize knew what, like someone who intentionally caused it. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for intent.
I agree. I was still hoping that someone connected to Queen Poe was there, like helping to like just protect this mineral, because she just seems so connected to that. And I just thought that it was a great way to tie in the previous season, but the writers went in a different direction.
In my opinion, the wrong direction, because again, you can't put you can't put the deaths of millions of people on a child. You just can't. You can't do that and call it closure.
Right. And it's not even just the death of millions of people, because he changed, like if they still had the lithium, maybe Osyraa wouldn't enslaved a lot of people. Like it just changed
the face of the universe.
Yes.
Like everything, the way Earth, like he caused so much suffering. There are people who are still suffering today because of his actions that he didn't even intend to do.
Well, now Su'Kal's going to need a lot of counseling and healing, because we know that he knows that this is on his shoulders, but also he has to relocate to a place with real people.
With real Kelpians,
and also just integrate with society and become I don't know, more his age, because he hasn't, I don't think, developed like someone who's been like 125-year-old Kelpian.
He's definitely more of a child. Like he doesn't know how to make their dishes because he's like the hollows never explained it correctly. And Saru has to walk him through how to make a traditional dish.
Right. I was also thinking maturity, interpersonal skills. Yes.
He's used to talking at things and saying stop, and they stop talking. Like, I think it was really nice that at the end of the episode, when they all thought they were going to die and they were hugging, and Discovery, after shooting out the warp core, I apologize. Let me recap this part before we jump into it. Discovery is able to shoot out their warp core. Apparently Book can connect with the spore drive, but like, there's a lot. I don't know how I'm gonna connect these two parts of this episode. So when they stop the hollow and they realize the ship is about to fall apart, they're hugging, and then we hear a message from Discovery. So back on Discovery, after Michael kills Osyraa, she's able to restart Discovery, get control over it again. But Osyraa's ship ends up taking Discovery onto their ship. She tells, they're back on the bridge. She tells them to send a message to their allies, because Navarre came to try to save them, but then immediately was like overrun, because she was like, target their airlock with the pesticides. They find out that they can jump because Book's empath abilities, because the scientist who was on Osyraa's side is still there, but whatever. We're not going to get into that.
And we're going to trust him.
Yes. But like Book can use the machine, but like, does he know how to? Like, is it just something where you can just put your hands in and be like, all right, I'm going to jump? Like, it just seemed like it was not really, this was a Hail Mary. This was a Hail Mary of Hail Marys. And they jump back to the nebula to save Saru, Hugh, Indira, and Su'Kal. And then we get to see Su'Kal's reaction to seeing other ships. And there's like a line of ships as Discovery's like flying down. And I thought that was beautiful. It was nice to see Su'Kal really see the universe, but at the same time, you killed all the people. But whatever, neither here nor there. It was nice to see that Saru was like, he's taking time to help Su'Kal integrate back into society. So I think we saw a part of what the Kelpian planet, and is how it looks much more futuristic now than what it used to, because it used to just be like, huts and stuff on the beach, and now there is a full-on like little city down there, which is very interesting. I saw lights and stuff, so I'm thinking it's like a city because they're sitting on a hill looking over.
Right. Yeah, Kalwanar is definitely expanded, and I think it's also because they're not restricted by the Baul.
Yeah.
So now they're able to grow like they should have been able to do a long time ago, and are not fearing the Vorhari.
Yeah. Like they can survive that now. We see that Trill has joined the Federation again. We see that Navarre is in talks to join the Federation again. Very interesting that we didn't actually see Michael's mom, even though she's the one who sent the message and sent all the Navarre. It was very interesting that we didn't actually see Michael see her mom. We see
that,
me too. We see Paul and Hugh and Indira like hug like a family. And then we see Paul give Michael the stink eye, which I think is rightly deserved on Michael's end. And she's like frowns, like, what? Like you literally made decisions for him and didn't explain anything that was going on. Regardless of the fact that they made the conscious decision to be down there, you never actually told him that. I think Paul has the right to be mad at Michael because, again, it's not what she did, it's how she did it. And I think it was like a really huge form of disrespect of like, I don't respect you enough to explain the full situation because I believe what I'm doing is more important. And I think that's something that she still hasn't learned. Like she still can trust people, but I feel like she trusts them when it's convenient for her and not when she should just trust someone and like take the time to explain what is actually happening. And we see that now she's the captain of Discovery. And I don't know how I feel about that because I don't think she's learned enough to become a captain to really, because yes, she has learned to trust people more, to like put faith in other people. But even with what she did with Paul, it sort of showed that she still does not, if it's not her way, it's like the highway. Like she doesn't take the time to truly explain what's going on to people. I want her to be captain, I do, but I don't want her to be the captain that always makes mistakes. And even though Vance had made the point to say, your way still works, I think it's like, yeah, there's more than one way to get to 10. You can do 5 + 5, but you can also do 2 + 8. So that's my thought process. I don't think she's ready to be the captain yet. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully next season 4, they tell me like she like, you know, kicks it out of the water and I'm like, oh, I was wrong. I can eat my words. But I just don't know. I don't think that she's ready for being a captain. What about you? What do you think about the last couple of scenes that we saw in this episode?
I like how they wrapped around the story to the very first episode with Lieutenant Sahel. And finally, he's promoted and formally recognized because he was out doing his job day after day after day, folks, without
I did cry. I teared up on that part.
With the old uniforms, he was following in the footsteps of his grandfather, and he had hope, and he kept that hope alive. If it was me, folks, I may have moved on. But I'm glad to see that wrap around, and it goes to show that like Vance still, or whoever's the president of the Federation, did try to make it whole. Now that they had the lithium, they're not all bossy about it. Like, okay, now we have all of these colonies. Let's correct this and make this right. So that I don't know, I had a sentimental moment right there. So that was nice.
Very sentimental moment. That really was. That was a very sentimental moment. Like oh.
Right? It was quick and it didn't need to be long. It was perfect. It was perfect. So I'm disappointed though in the fact that Saru was captain for a while and he never really had the, I guess, given a lot by the writers to really show his character shine as a captain, really become comfortable in that captain's chair, because he struggled with for a while in that leadership role. He asked the computer about the qualities of prestigious captains and different things like that, and he struggled with his warp signature message, like execute and stuff like that. But it just, I feel like the writers made it really easy for Michael. And her characters had so many issues. And I think also there's members of the crew that still struggle with this, whether it's Paul. I can imagine there might be other members of the ship that still struggle with the roller coaster ride of Michaelness
and captaincy, because it seems like every season they have a new captain, and I just feel like Saru should have stayed the captain, and maybe I agree. I feel like Saru should have stayed the captain, because like every season they literally have a new captain.
Right. Every season we end with who's going to be the captain.
Yeah.
And we kind of started after Giorgio, our prime Giorgio passed away. Well, who's going to be the captain? Like that's just been the big question. It's just like Michael just sits so comfortably in that chair, and she said, "Let's fly." And I was like, and I hope Saru can return.
Me too.
I know he's helping Su'Kal settle in, but I don't think he should give up his leadership role, because he helped them to transition to this timeline, and he's a really good negotiator. Yes. With his diplomacy is right on point with the Vulcans, with a few other things, and he's helped bail Michael and the crew out so many times. Oh my goodness, I can go on and on. So I just feel like Saru got the bad end of this, and I was just hoping for more with the writers. I definitely feel represented in a captain's chair. I'm glad as a female. I'm glad someone who worked her way up, a Black female. I just want more for Michael. I'm torn.
So I definitely see what you're saying, because there's always that adage of we always have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And I feel like they put so many issues in Michael's path to make her seem like she's not a good captain, or she's not ready to be a good captain, because there are a lot of decisions that the writers have her make that she doesn't have to make it that way. The whole Paul situation, in my opinion, was handled so disrespectfully to him that, Michael, if this was reversed, even when your own mother called you out in front of people, she took the time to explain to you why she did it. And did you want to hear it? No. But did you deserve to hear it? Yes. So why could you afford that same stuff to him? The writers always say whenever it's something with Michael, the whole crew has to stop for her and explain what's going on for her and give her the time to truly explain. But for anyone else, it just doesn't happen. And she doesn't afford that same comfort to other people when it's not convenient for her. And it's just doesn't, like, I don't know, they write her in a contradictive manner all the time. And it's like, oh, you're too close to this. You were too close to everything you've always done. Everything that you do, you're always too close to. It's always, oh, I'm not personally connected to it. It's your mother. That's why I should do it, because it's my mother. You cannot have it both ways, Michael. Like, they keep writing her in a contradictive manner, and I just don't like that, because when you're in the captaincy, you cannot keep contradicting yourself. When you're in the captaincy, you have to know what you're doing. You have to feel, your crew needs to know that they can trust you, that you're going to explain what's going on. And the history that we have with Michael is that she never explains her actions to people. She defends her actions, but she doesn't explain her actions. And I don't think that's a good thing for a captain. I don't know. That's just me.
I agree with you. Just one more point. I'm a little worried now with Paul. Paul's not going to be the only game in town that knows how to operate this board drive now. I guess all of Book's people.
Yeah.
Everyone can, at least we know that Book can. So possibly other members of his family and the planet they grew up with can operate this board drive.
That's true. Also, one, why is Book still on the ship? Like, seriously, you're not even in Starfleet uniform. Why are you still in the ship, Book?
In a new uniform.
Two, we see that now Discovery's mission now is to give the lithium to all the planets, because now they can jump outside of like the different zones to give all the other planets in the Federation and other planets of the colonies the lithium, so that way they can reconnect the universe. So that's their new mission. 3, just like you said, is Paul, like, are they going to be able to replicate the spore drive now that other people can use it? There's a lot of questions at the end of the season, and we don't have time to discuss them all because that's a whole nother episode in itself. So any last thoughts before we come to the end of this episode?
No, I'm looking forward to everyone check out our next episode featuring our recap of season 3.
So don't miss that. We're gonna have a lot of fun discussing everything we loved, everything we hated, our most fun memories from season 3. And then what we think what we want to see happen in season 4. Because again, if you're new, we only watch these episodes as they in order. So we have not binge watched anything. So we know nothing about season 4. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. And then as always, because apparently I can't speak today, I'm Andrea.
I'm Anika.
And live long
and prosper.